Hello everyone, I'm here with Rake. He is the owner of guidedhacking.com, a site which provides many tutorials for people who want to learn how to hack offline games. Yeah, maybe you can introduce yourself, what's your occupation, a little bit, talk about that.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me and doing this. Yeah, I'm Rake. I'm 38 years old. I live in the USA. I own guidedhacking.com, which is all about game hacking and reverse engineering. I first got started around 2001 when I was a teenager, and I got back into it about 8 years ago and ended up buying this website, and I've been pretty much just doing that ever since.
Cool. So you already talked about how you got started, but what was like the first game? What was your first impression how you got into hacking?
I'll start from the very beginning. My dad was
Sure.
actually a computer programmer in the 1980s. So we had computers at the house like my whole life. Like every time something new came out, we always had it because he had to trade on it. So I had a laptop when I was like 5, totally hooked in, obsessed with computers ever since. Mostly just playing games. But
Nice.
around like 13 years old, like in middle school, everyone was on like AOL Instant Messenger, like a Windows 95 had come out, Windows 98, maybe XP at that point. And we were all on AOL Messenger and Yahoo Messenger, and they had these booters. They're like actual programs you would download that they had all these different exploits for these services, and you could actually knock people offline. And that's how I first got into hacking. And then Windows 95 had like the ping of death, which was like this one little packet you sent, and it would literally brick the whole computer. The whole computer would turn off. The kernel screen would show up, and then it would reboot. So I obviously, as a kid, thought that was awesome. I started learning Visual Basic and HTML just to mess around with stuff. I got into the Ware scene for a while, which was like messing around with FTP servers and
Mm,
loading,
mm.
crack games up for people to download. Long time ago. But in terms of game hacking, like everyone else, I was playing a game and someone had an aimbot and was just destroying the entire lobby.
Yeah, I've had
And
that feeling before.
obviously that was really cool. And back then, your bot would actually spam the chat. You're basically advertising that like you were the coolest. And in one of these spams in the chat was a link to a IRC channel. So the game was Unreal Tournament in 1999, and they actually have an IRC client that was built right into it, which was so cool. So you could literally just type that right in, and you could be chatting with these people, and it ended up being a game hacking server.
Nice. That sounds cool. Which game was that? Call of Duty, CS:GO, or
Oh, way earlier,
way
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 earlier.
earlier? Okay.
Unreal Tournament 1999. So that's
Wow.
the
Okay.
first real Unreal Engine game.
Yeah.
They made two Unreal games before that, but this was the one that had like their real engine in it. It's still really similar even today. There was a mod called Tactical Ops, and that was a clone of the original Counter-Strike, which was a mod for Half-Life.
Hmm.
So they were very similar in that regards. And so the people in that IRC server, if I recall correctly, it was the Elf Clan they were called, and it was literally a clan of people, and all they did was hack games. And so I joined their server, and everyone was just talking about coding and making the cheats, etc. And I lurked there for a while, and they ended up making tutorials. There were two guys, one guy named Helios and another guy named Dankmaster, and they made like 20 tutorials. So I ended up learning how to do it through them.
Nice. So you didn't have any real computer science knowledge, if I...
Yeah, it's just like now, people
Yeah.
just they have the desire to want to learn, and those are the people who are end up being the best are the self-starters.
Yeah.
Before when we were talking about doing the interview, one thing that stood out to me is like something I could tell people is, you don't need to go to college for any of this stuff. And I don't recommend it. You can learn to be the best coder or hacker in the world just on the internet for free. And if you have like a good GitHub or a blog, you can make YouTube tutorials. You can get job offers just solely based on that. It proves a couple things. It proves that you have real world experience and that you're passionate about it and that like you're a self starter. And I think that's huge to companies. People say like, oh, you need a degree. Maybe in a big like insurance company, but that's probably boring development job anyways. If you want to do something exciting like a startup, they want to see that you have passion and real world experience.
So I am in college right now, but I've also thought many times, man, if I wouldn't be in college, I would be doing way more practical stuff because I'm not coding a lot, I think. could be coding way more. And
Oh yeah, definitely.
there's so much good resources, for example, on guidedhacking.com where you can like learn stuff for free. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of game hacking, my site definitely, but in terms of developing any
Yeah.
IT stuff,
Yeah.
networking,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much free stuff you can use. It's ridiculous. And yeah, you just, degree is a lot of money. Listen, if you got the money, go.
Yeah.
You want the experience of going to college, but I think for most people, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Would you say game hacking is a good starting point for getting to know programming and in general?
Uh, a lot of people get started that way. I was actually the United Kingdom, they actually have like a whole their cybersecurity division of their
Yeah.
government or whatever. They published a big report about how they stop. I think at the time they had like lulzsec and Anonymous were causing all types of havoc. So they published this big report, and what they found out is that like 70% of these illegal criminal hackers, they all got started game hacking. So plenty
Okay.
of people, even the
Yeah.
best hackers in the world, get started on this.
Yeah.
But no, I think you should learn how to code first.
Okay.
Even just 6 months. I had the experience. I was definitely not an expert coder by any means, but I knew the terminology, and within 3 months of doing C++, I was back up to speed. When I got back into it, and it was pretty simple. The problem a lot of people have with game hacking is reverse engineering is the hardest part, and it's kind of like development, but you're going backwards. So if you know the development part first, then going backwards from assembly, basically you're looking
Mm.
at something low level and you're trying to extract what it's doing on the high level. And if you don't know the higher level, then how do you do that? So that's where coding, I think, is a hugely important skill. But you don't need 3 to 6 months just to get you started. You can learn the rest as you go.
Yeah, I think 6 months for learning a like C++ or something is also if you grind daily, that should be you have a good base starting
Yeah,
point
to
after
get the
that.
basics,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
at at that point you're just Googling. How do
yeah,
I do this? How do I do that? What API do I need for this?
yeah. I think the
That's
Googling
that's
part
half of what you
is
do in
always,
development.
yep. Yeah, so which programming languages do you see most often? Of course, assembly. I'm guessing if you reverse engineer the um,
Yeah,
code
yeah,
and
but I really think C++ is the best thing for game
okay.
hacking. C/C++. I mean, you can use
Yeah,
either.
Python is pretty popular or Java, I guess for
Python's hugely popular to begin with. So is Java. I mean,
yeah,
because these are huge career
but
development
yeah.
jobs. But yeah, no, you can definitely use Python for game hacking. The problem is if you're gonna do really advanced stuff, especially in like a first-person shooter
Mm,
and there's anti-cheat, Python's not what you're gonna want to use. You can do a lot with it, but in terms of efficiency, you want to be running inside the game process. Which can you do it with Python? Yes, but it's it's like way more effort
yeah.
than would be required with C.
Yeah, I can imagine with C the whole like injecting storage stuff, etc. becomes way more easier than in Python.
Oh yeah,
Or yeah,
definitely. C++ definitely what you want to use. If you're dealing with anti-cheats, you need to be in the kernel, and so you have to code in C.
yeah, yeah.
Can't use Python or Java for that. But we have two tutorials on reverse engineering Python applications, and then game hacking in Python,
Hmm.
and then we probably have 20 tutorials on how to do the same thing with Java.
Nice. So you talked about reverse engineering. What would you say is the like if I give you an offline game right now and I want you to get me infinite lives for that offline game, what would be your typical approach for beginning to hack the game, I guess?
Yeah, you want to start off with something easy. Even in any game, just start
Yeah.
start simple. Eventually you probably want to do something crazy like an aimbot, an ESP, or maybe you're making a bot for like a MMO game. But yeah, you got to start with the basics. Number one is Reconnaissance, right? You want to figure out like what game engine does it use? Does the game have anti-cheat? Is the executable file, is it packed or obfuscated in any way? Do you have access to console commands? Because then reverse engineering becomes so much easier if you have console commands. And another thing that's often overlooked is what is in the game directory. Go on your C drive and look in the folder. You
Mm,
can find tons of information from that. A lot of times stuff's packed up into these big compressed bundles, but you can extract them. There's tools out there that do it, or you can figure it out yourself. They're all pretty much the same, and you can learn a lot just from that.
No
So
problem.
second part would be like actual reversing and debugging. That's when you're going to whip out cheat engine and you're going to look up the simple variable, like you said, like health or ammo. With those addresses of those variables, you can start to identify like the various basic structures that the game uses, like for stuff that's important to you, the player object, the weapon object, your inventory, etc. As you start to figure those out, you're going to find functions that interact with these variables. At that point, you would switch to maybe a better tool for reverse engineering like IDA Pro. For something like you just asked, like infinite health, that's so easy. Yeah, that would take 5 seconds in Cheat Engine for me. Some games are harder than others, but like tops 5 minutes. No, definitely
Okay,
no longer than
that's
that.
crazy.
But you wanna make something and you wanna release it and like have your friends use it. A cheat engine's cool, but you want to do something better. So that's what I'm saying. Then you'd be going to IDA Pro and you'd really start reverse engineering these parts of the game that you've identified, these functions. And what that gives you is context. You may not need to know what every single thing does, but you're getting like a high level view of like this here does this here does that. And as you do that for, let's say a month, you're building so much context within this disassembly of the game. You're looking at the raw assembly, and IDA Pro lets you decompile it into C code. So you are getting a higher view on it. And with all that context, when you need to find something new, it's so much easier when you have all that information already there. So that's what I really recommend first is just spend a month working on reversing the binary. Once you've got those the structures that you need, the functions, the addresses, you would put together like a proof of concept, basically accessing and parsing these structures, make sure you got all that working. Because if you just like jump in trying to make an aimbot, you're just gonna drive yourself crazy. Once you've got the proof of concept done, then you can start adding features, linking all the different stuff together. And then after that, there's typically a long debugging process and then polishing it up because I can sit down and write 1,000 lines of code and I'm gonna have a lot of debugging, low level memory accessing stuff. You just have to debug. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were asking, like how quick could I make this hack? Like for basically any game without anti-cheat, it would take me 1 to 2 weeks to make an aimbot in like my spare time, like when I'm not working, like just like when I'm home from work. But like
Yeah.
if you were like if you wanted me to sit down and just crank one out, you could probably do it in like 12 hours.
I can imagine that there's also similar structures, of course, you can see in the games, and then it becomes easier, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's essentially all the games are the same. I mean, it's
Yeah.
3D game programming. This is
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
magic, And most of the games all use the same game engines. You got the Infinity Ward engine, which is just Quake engine. You got CS:GO and games like that, which are just Source engine and Unreal Engine. A few others.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
the same. You do one, you can do it on any game.
What would be your advice for like a game developer nowadays if they were to release an anti-cheat engine?
Yeah, I was thinking about this today.
Yeah.
Just for game developers in general, number one is you cannot trust the client. We've known that for 30 years, and games are still heavily reliant on it. For example, Star Wars Battlefront 2. This game is not that old. I think it's like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the clients dictate how much damage each attack does, and the server just accepts that information. So you can say
Oh,
I do
wow.
9,000 damage per shot, and it just lets you do that. That works online, so you could kill the whole server in 2 seconds if you want to. And for such a new game, that's a triple A title. I mean, this game is huge. It's EA, right? I mean, it's Frostbite engine, but like this is way more common than you think. Not in most AAA games, but for smaller studios, they do have a large reliance on client data because they can't authenticate everything on the server because that's going to increase their server costs, right?
Yeah.
Or if they just don't have the development costs to make a secure game. At the end of the day, it's about what's your risk, If you only have 5,000 players, or how much money can you invest in security
Yeah.
versus a huge game like I don't know Overwatch or League of Legends or something like they have
Yeah.
the budget for that.
Wow, but that's
Uh,
crazy that Star Wars, you could send something to the client and then it would just re respond back to the server. Wow.
they have these games have all types of little logic holes. That
Yeah.
one's not that complicated,
Mm.
but others can be. But like if you can authenticate a piece of data in one part, but that piece of data gets passed around to 30 functions, what happens if you change it in another area and all of a sudden the server accepts it?
Mm.
Here's another one too. If the information is authenticated on your client, like let's say you did 10 million damage, you're sending that piece of information, but the client will see that and they'll like put a cap on it. They'll say, okay, maximum damage is 100, and so they'll cap it, and then they'll send the 100 to the server. So what happens when you bypass that function and you use a packet and you just send the packet directly with the with the 10 million damage in it? It might accept it if they're not authenticated in both places. See?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, developers are limited, with the resources that are available, and the attackers are extremely motivated. People want to win games. Like I was listening to some interview with Bifron Technologies, which is like a new anti-cheat group, and like they're saying is hacking the game becomes the game for people like me. Winning a game is fun, but it's so much more of a great mental challenge and the reward. Like you could be trying to hack this game for like 6 months, and when you finally finish it, it's so rewarding. So the attacker's hugely motivated.
Yeah. I've also been doing some hacking challenges, and it's so exciting when you finally get through or finish the
Yeah,
goal.
even easy stuff is fun. Like
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of like CTF, like penetration testing,
Yeah.
especially web apps. But like every once in a while, I'll do one, and yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
Hacking is so much fun. I mean,
Yes.
I I don't know what I would do if I wasn't hacking, honestly.
Yeah.
Back to your question, you mentioned anti-cheat. So
Yes.
yeah, all popular games need to have a minimum of just a basic kernel anti-cheat. I can't believe how many games do not have kernel anti-cheat. There is right on MSDN. You can download source code for a driver which will block access to the game's memory. You just download it, you edit a few lines, and you ship it with your game. That's a bare minimum you need, because if you do not have that, your game is going to get absolutely destroyed by you're
Mm.
going to get destroyed by 12-year-olds with Cheat Engine. The first thing you need to do is block Cheat Engine from being able to open the game. So, yeah, you could put this anti-cheat on there, and yeah, the pros will bypass it, but you're talking about minimum investment, and you're going to block all the noobs. So, you're going to reduce it to only pro hackers and people who buy cheats, which is definitely huge amount of the group.
Yeah. Have you ever faced any legal consequences, even though you're only making tutorials? I'm guessing it's very different if you're probably selling hacks, but yeah, can you maybe talk about that? Or if you don't, I guess you can just ignore the question.
Yeah, no, we have not had any problems, which I'm very happy about.
Yes.
And I want to say one thing, because I put some thought into this question. So, I'm not a lawyer, so this
Yeah.
is not legal advice. This is just general information based on what I've read and from things I've talked about with friends, etc. If you aren't selling cheats, you have literally nothing to worry about. It's just such a small chance that you could get in trouble, because at the end of the day, all we're doing is you're violating the end user license agreement and the terms of service. They're not going to come after you for that. Every lawsuit I've ever seen is regarding selling cheats, and there's been
Mm.
quite a few of them. You can Google it, it's done tons of articles. You get access to the full court records and everything, so you can do a ton of research on this. But like a guy using a homemade aimbot script is not causing a company damages worth going after. At the end of the day, the plaintiff, they have to prove to the court that they have suffered damages, aka lost revenue, because of you. And yeah, if your game has a huge cheating problem, people aren't going to buy the game. So if everyone knows cheating is common in your game, then yeah, they could definitely prove that you've done damages and go after you. Now, if the game has in-app purchases, which they pretty much all do now, it's much easier to prove that you're doing damage to the company, especially when the old court cases have now become like case law, right? Where they can be referenced in new motions.
Mm.
People will buy cheats and use them instead of buying your in-game currency or your in-game item or your new skin or whatever. And so they can definitely use that to prove you did damages. That's been used successfully in court a few times. Now, if you're hacking game servers, now you're violating the Computer
Yeah.
Fraud and Abuse
Yeah.
Act. And in US terms anyways, and that's obviously bad, which I don't think that's very common. if you're hacking in-game currency, I think that's very dangerous. Or you're using bots to farm currency for the purpose of selling the currency. You're just asking for trouble. Now, for reverse engineering and using aimbots, you're really just messing with the memory on the client. So at the end of the day, like, you're not touching anything that they own. It's not their server. This is you're running on your computer. So
Yeah.
you're just violating the EULA and the TOS. Some countries have laws about reverse engineering, but these aren't really enforced. And some of these laws actually will protect you, not the game company. They say you have the right as a consumer to take a look at what they're giving you, their software.
Yeah. I also can't imagine like the practical enforcement, how that would work if you're practical as a reverse engineering something and then yeah.
Yeah, like what do they have? They got to get access to your computer and
Yeah.
like find a file with some like notes in it. Like
That would be
I
illegal.
found the health address.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just silly. So yeah, the only people they're going after are pay cheats.
Mm,
It's something might come up in the future with anti-cheat though, because anti-cheat is similar to DRM, digital rights management.
mhm.
So like, if you crack like a piece of software or something, and there's probably DRM on it, or one topic that's come up is hacking ECUs in cars, the computers in the cars.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have DRM on them, and yeah, you can get in big trouble. And basically, if you touch the DRM, anything you do afterwards is pretty much immaterial, because once you touch DRM, you're committing a crime,
Yeah.
basically. So is an anti-cheat a DRM? Because some could look at that. It's protecting their product. It's protecting their software. And so by reverse engineering it or releasing like a tool, you are bypassing DRM. So, that could be a problem in the future, but I've never seen it used that way. Interesting thought though.
Yeah.
Now, another way they can get you is with copyright infringement. Let's say you're selling a pay cheat, and like in your marketing materials, you use the logo for the game. Well, that's a copyrighted image, and they've done this too before because it's such low hanging fruit, right? They
Yeah.
can send this to a lawyer. It's clean cut. They don't have to litigate this. It's copyright infringement. So they can get you that way, and maybe that's enough to scare a lot of people where they'll just stop completely.
Yeah. I can also imagine that copyright infringement is probably one of a very often a case that comes up very often. So it's probably very
Oh
easy
yeah,
also to
easy. Yeah, your
enforce.
j- your your judge, the judge doesn't need to understand reverse engineering and
Yeah.
assembly.
Yeah.
He just knows what this is,
Yeah.
and that it's
Yeah.
illegal.
Yeah.
And you'll see this tacked on sometimes, like, because when they present the case, they want to hit you with everything they got, so they'll just tack on some copyright charges, at the end. Even though it's not the heavy hitting thing, but it just makes you look like a dirtbag, so you're more likely to
Mm.
get in trouble. But there's other ways you can get in trouble with copyright infringement. So like, let's say there's a DLL file, which is just like a library, like an API that the game uses. Well, what if you want to use that API? So you start shipping your cheat with a copy of that
Mm.
DLL or something similar. Now you're using their code, so they can ding you that way too. And another way, I believe this is. Do you remember World of Warcraft, the glider bot?
Not really, but maybe you can explain
That was
it
a long
shortly.
time ago. There's a DEF CON video about it, I believe.
Yes.
Uh, but I think this is how they got him, if I recall correctly, is basically just copyright infringement. He was using their code or something like that. Like, imagine
That's
you
crazy.
sometimes you like they have a function and you're trying to use it and it's just really annoying. I've done this multiple times. I won't even reverse engineer it. I'll just copy and paste the entire
Yeah.
assembly, like the all the assembly code, and I'll just jump to that assembly. It's just easier sometimes. But you've just copy and pasted their code, so you can get in trouble for that too.
Yeah.
Now, I think your real question was regarding me and my website. In regards to that, gaming companies and anti-cheat developers, they depend on game hacking communities for intelligence. If they force us into more secretive communities, they lose all that intelligence, and it's hugely important to them. It's so easy. Not that this is very common now, but back in the day, someone would release a cheat. Everyone download this for free. The company could just download it, build a signature for it, and add a detection to the game, and then start a ban wave. So everyone that used it would get banned. That was common back in the day. It's a lot less common now because they have a lot of heuristics. But they'll lose all that, and they also want to know What are these people up to? What are these game hackers doing? What new techniques do they have? And most importantly, who are the players? Because eventually someday they might want to come after you, and who are you? That's how do they serve a warrant for your arrest? No, how do they get subpoena you for a lawsuit or whatever? You could have perfect OPSEC for 5 years, right? No one knows your real name or where you live, but you'll get dinged because they'll connect you to a public forum profile from 7 years ago. This happens all the time, not with game hacking particularly, but just in cybercrime generally.
Mm.
Now, yeah, so guided hacking. We we recently closed our forum, so posting is disabled. We still publish content, but normal people can't post. We haven't been like a download hacks here website for a long time. We're working on converting our service into a mostly like an educational resource. That's what
Yeah.
I've always been interested in. Like I don't want to be the bad guy, but I'm just passionate about making game hacking tutorials, and a lot of people don't like that. But we don't publish much on new games. All our main content is regarding games from 10 to 20 years ago. We're very selective over what we publish now. We're trying to stay on the quote unquote good side. We've had people who've wanted to publish articles about like specific games, and I'm like, I can't publish this. Like,
Mm.
I we don't want to be that person to get in trouble. It's hard. We're in the process of deleting a lot of our old content that might cause some problems. And I hope people appreciate the direction that we're moving. I'd like our content to be perceived in like the same way that cybersecurity content is, right? Because you can go on GitHub right now and you can find the same cyber weapons that the government is using and download them, and then you can go on YouTube and learn how to use them. These are the same tools that like China, Russia, and the United States are using against each other in cyber espionage, like cyber warfare, and you can learn how to do this, and that's perfectly fine. No one has a problem. Like, how is our content any different? Like at the end of the day, we're just providing information. There's a whole like morality thing that comes into it, and listen, no one's perfectly moral, and I don't want to be the bad guy, but I ain't gonna be perfect either.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's also why I chose you for the interview. I have a quote from your forum. I don't have
Oh
any
boy.
interest in modding, exploiting GTA. I do not teach people how to hack new games because all we will get is people wanting to download the hacks and not learn anything, and that's not what I'm
Yes,
into. My focus is on people that want to learn. These are people I want to spend my
definitely.
time with.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, I think that was really why what also inspired me to
Yeah, and listen,
start the interview with
we,
you. Yeah.
we get millions of people every year who come to our site and they just want to download cheats and use them. Like, I don't even play online games. I don't hack games like at all. And listen, pay cheats are the real threat. These
Yes,
people,
yes.
you know, like I have friends who run them, like, so I'm not trying to talk shit about them, but like they could have 30,000 users, just one company in one game. Like, and how many people play your game if it's only 100,000, if 30% of your people are cheating? Like, this is huge. We do not have that impact. Sure,
Mm,
people are learning from the content we create, but it's such a small group of people. Like I've said before, like 10 million people visit our site every year, but only like 100 of them actually learn anything, because it's such a huge commitment. It's a lot of work. You have to be dedicated and you have to be smart too. Like, this is not
yeah, yeah.
not something everyone can do.
Also, quickly talk about you mentioned what I also think is something I've come across my research is that hacking and modding often also really helps the gaming community a lot. There's
Oh yeah, huge,
yeah,
huge. I would say the modding community is bigger than the regular gaming community.
yeah.
I just played this. I love Skyrim. I played it like 10 times with thousands of mods, of course. But
Mm.
they made a complete remake of the entire, like a whole overhaul. Like, it's a totally different game, just built on top of Skyrim. It's called Enderal Forgotten Stories, and I've spent like 200 hours playing this game. It's amazing. I like it way more than I like Skyrim. Yeah, the storytelling is just really, really good. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. It's funny because if you look back historically, the most popular games are all the games that have modding.
Yeah.
I know you've read it, but the listener doesn't know. I published a this is how you basically found me. I have an article called like the history of game hacking and aimbots because I've been here so long where I just have that knowledge since 2001. But yeah, in it I show you, right, Quake had modding, Doom had modding, Half-Life had modding, Unreal had modding. And those are still all like the most popular games, and they've reiterated them 100 times. The Quake engine is used by hundreds of companies. Same thing with Unreal Engine, and yeah, modding is so huge, and all those games were fun. Like people like Gmod and yeah, Gmod, the Gary's mod.
Yeah.
People love that game. They're still playing it. I feel like it's 20 years old now.
Yeah, the modding community around Gmod is huge, I think.
You know what machinima is?
Yes.
I was like, I haven't seen one of those in years. It used to be super popular on YouTube, but I looked up Skyrim Machinima. There's hundreds of these videos. Like these
Damn.
people, it's so cool. Like I think content creators are so cool.
Yeah.
People who just like passionate about making stuff and sharing it. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Would you say that the game hacking community is very similar to the gaming community in general?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, the
yeah.
game hacking community is the gaming
Yes,
community
that's true.
who suck at games and
Yeah,
want to win.
that's not a good question, to
Essentially,
be honest.
yeah, I mean the gaming community is filled with kids. The game hacking community, honestly, like, listen, I'm a focused, career-minded, mature 38-year-old business owner.
Yeah.
I've used that line before because like I get like 13-year-old kids who like want to be my best friend. Like I want nothing to do with you. It's really hard for me to relate to my audience. To be honest, I do not like the community. I hate it.
Mm,
And I closed the forum for a number of reasons, but I don't want to be exposed to these people. I think the majority of them are just losers, and like I want to surround myself with people who are trying to improve themselves and doing something with their lives, like passionate and focused and motivated. I don't want these other people to bring me down. I think part of the reason you're asking this question is because you saw the video where we got DDoSed like 100 times, and yeah, the community, it's pretty sad.
yeah.
But of course, when I was 13 years old, I was probably the same way. Now I'm old, so I don't want to be a part of it. In regards to the DDoS, yeah, we get like 200 to 300 DDoS attempts every year. Like people just really want to screw us over, and that's not the only thing. I mean, we get massive amounts of fraud and hacking attempts. We get scanned by vulnerability scanners like 300, 400, 500 times per day from different IP addresses.
Mm,
Yeah, some of it's just automated, but I can tell like someone's trying like every tool they can find to try to get us. It's just
yeah.
sad because like we've been here. Guided hacking has been here since 2012.
Yeah.
Like we've been here forever. Like you're not gonna get us. Of course, someone will listen to this and then they'll get me.
Yeah, what I also don't understand, it's not like you hurt them in any way. You're just producing content. That's what I think is really crazy, that you're still getting targeted, even though,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I don't.
I've caused a bit at that, but
Okay, yeah, sure.
you've read the website.
Yes.
But there's another group of people though who don't like cheaters, right? These are
Yeah.
people who love their games and like they're taking it out on us because
Mm,
like, okay, yeah, we're kind of causing the problem here. I get it. But those people aren't super motivated. The people who will really go crazy is, like I said, I don't want to be involved with these people. So if you're a person that I don't like, I'm gonna ban you.
mm,
That's just how I operate. I don't want you in my life, and so I have the power to get you out of it with one button click. So I'm gonna utilize the tools that are at my disposal, right? At the end of the day, my mental health is worth more than your account. I've banned a lot of people over the years, and it's not particularly me. It's the people are just, these are 13-year-old losers who try to hack me. I'm just not interested.
mm.
So yeah, I'll ban someone, and yeah, I'll get a DDoS attack 10 seconds later. They're like super quick with it. So then I instantly know who it is. But
Yeah, yeah.
it was interesting because I've done a lot of different coding and hacking, but never really learned so much about like networking stuff. So I was forced to learn because we were getting DDoSed like 10, 20 times a day at one point. So I had to learn fast. And it's been like 2 years now, and we get DDoS probably every other day, maybe every 3 days.
Mm.
And we haven't gone down in 2 years, so I'm not worried about it. And it was kind of fun. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, what you said about 13-year-old kids, I think that's sort of a phase everyone has to go through in their early lives with the internet. At least I went through that phase as well, and it's sort of, yeah, it's
Oh
it's
yeah,
part of the
definitely.
internet, I think. Um,
That's just how it goes.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I have one more question about guided hacking. Would you say it's more of a content platform now, sort of to YouTube, where you have these content creators publishing content, or do you have active employees, sort of?
Yeah, we do have staff
Okay.
that are working every week now, right? Because there's only so much I can do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
all I do right now is I'm trying to grow the business. I'm just trying to promote it. I want to expose more people to it. Like one thing that really annoys me is people who are like, "Wow, I just found your website yesterday. It's awesome." And then I'm like, "How long you been game hacking?" And they say 4 years. And it's like, "Well, how do you not know who we are yet? How did this happen?" So like clearly we don't have the reach that we deserve. And I made tutorials for 7 years. I'm still making a few, but I was going really hard. And those tutorials just got lost because I was producing so much content that no one could keep up. So now I'm at this point where it's like I could make a new tutorial, right? And post it, and 20 people are going to see it. It gets lost in the ocean
yeah,
of content.
yeah,
We have 400 hacking video tutorials. We have at least I have personally touched 700 tutorials on the website, and I think I made, I don't know, 100 on the YouTube. So like, yeah, how do people find this stuff? So now I'm working a lot on like how do we organize this content and get it in front of people, and certainly a lot of marketing too. Like I said, when someone says they didn't know, I didn't know your website existed, that pisses me off.
yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, we do it. We have content creators. Yeah, this is a whole nother thing. Like I said before, I love content creators. You go to any game hacking website, and it's someone will spend like a month making some tool or some cheat, and they'll post it, and then you get 1,000 morons who don't even know how to use the file they're downloading, right? And they're
Yeah,
asking all these stupid questions, like such low effort, and I just can't stand that. Like the content creator doesn't deserve this. Like you
yeah,
should be praising this guy, not pestering him with all these questions. And I dealt with that a lot. So I kind of want to switch gears with my community and promote the content creators. And here's the other thing too, like you post some source code, right? Some pay cheat is going to download it, they're going to compile it, and they're going to sell it for $20 a month. Why do none of these communities care about the content creators? That's something that bugged me. And so I want to make our community, these people are all being paid now. We have
mm,
people that produce cheat tables, they're all being paid. There's other websites, no one's getting paid. These people have been on the website working there for 8 years or whatever, and they've never received a single dollar. I'm paying them up front on day one, and listen, you get better quality content if people are going to make a couple $100 when they make it, right?
I can imagine.
Like let's say I made a cheat, right? And I'm not going to spend a half an hour writing up like how do you use it tutorial, you just throw the zip on
Mm,
Mega, and you go to bed. So I'm trying to do something totally different.
yeah. Okay, cool. I think that was all the questions from me. Yeah, as already said, if you want to get an introduction into gaming hacking or you're interested, go visit guidedhacking.com. I also followed some tutorials. They were very high quality, I thought. And yeah, I have one last question. I will maybe show your profile picture in the
Yep.
podcast. And what is the story behind your profile picture?
That is me with a Knights Templar helmet on it,
Nice.
and and a 6-hour handgun I have.
And a sick CGI background.
Yes, it's the flames,
Oh,
baby.
okay, cool. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. We'll talk to you again soon.